This video is brought to you by Arma, who provides top quality supplements to athletes of all kinds. Riders like Nick Way, Chad Reed, Jeremy McGrath use them for pre, during, and post-activity applications. Be sure to head to armasport.com and use the code RACERX. That's RACERX, no spaces, for 20% off your first order. What's up, everybody? I'm Kris Keefer. Welcome to RacerXOnline.com. That is Aden Keefer. He's my 14-year-old son, 5'8", 125 pounds, 2021 Honda CRF250R, 2021 KX250, light modification shootout for the amateur B-class rider. Heather and I, which is my wife, we're trying to get into this amateur racing world. It's new to us, right? Aden's starting to get competitive in the B-class. We need some modifications to these bikes. I don't want to go balls out with modifications, but Jamie over at Twisted did a Vortex ignitions on each, FMF muffler on the Honda, Pro Circuit muffler on the Kawasaki, and light headwork with a high compression piston in both. And we're gonna shoot these suckers out, put Aden on the clock, really dissect what is the best bike for this little skinny guy over here that wants to race dirt bikes. All right, we have wrapped her up here. Aden and I have both ridden these. It's not really up to me. This is more on the Aden side of things here. You guys may be wondering, hey, Keefer, why not a KTM or a Husqvarna or even a Yamaha? Why did you choose a CRF250R and a KX250? The reasons are, Aden has tried a Yamaha, and he specifically told me it just had too much low end and it felt too wide for him. Again, he's about 5'8", 120, 125 pounds, so what we call DNR, you guys can figure that out on another show, but there's not a lot of muscle here, right? So he's skinny, just starting to grow into his body, you know, so I wanted to get a bike that had a long linear power, maybe a little bit down on low end so he could control it. So you guys are going, well, it's the modified 250F shootout. Yes, but we have done a light mod on these bikes. So obviously mufflers, ECUs on both, Vortex ECUs mapped by Jamie at Twisted, and then a piston in each, and then very light headwork. So not a lot done. We're not trying to give him massive amounts of power here. We're just trying to give him a little advantage off the start so he can at least start up with these other B-class kids that have the full-blown engines. I'm from Hesperia, California. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. He's lucky that I am in the industry, so he gets these kind of perks. You guys watching simply don't have that. So for us here in the Keefer household, we have the KX, we have the Honda, and before we started this, he really wanted to be on a Kawasaki. I think he wanted to be on a Kawasaki because he thinks it's cool. Team Green, Ryder DiFrancesco, Chance Hymas. Like, come on. So we grabbed these bikes today, and to my surprise, I had Aden do 6-lap moto on this, 6-lap moto on this, a cumulative time, and to my surprise, he was faster on the Honda than he was the Kawasaki. When you came back and you said, hey, or I asked you, I go, What do you think you're faster on? What did you say?
I said the Honda just because my cornering is so much better on it. Like I can actually lay it in there and not really have to like force the bike to do anything except with the Cowie, I feel like I have to come in really aggressive, rev it high, and try to lay it in there, and it's hard.
So that's what I've noticed too. The Honda, obviously you guys know it there. The Honda corner's excellent. That's one of the reasons why we chose to have him ride the Honda on some of these races that we go to. There's not a lot of bottom end hit or acceleration on a stock Honda. So with the FMF pipe and the Vortex and some of that light mod headwork along with the piston really woke this bike up. I rode it. It's a very fun bike for me to ride. If it was me, I obviously would choose a Honda too, just because I can corner it a little bit better. I'm a front end steering guy. Still has a lot of controllability, a lot of traction to the rear wheel. The good points for me on the Kawasaki were it's a long linear power. I still think this has a little bit more RPM response. This thing pulls farther up on top. And for the way he rides, he's a more of a smoother type of guy. I put him on a 450 one time, and I was like, wow, it's impressive for me because his technique is good, but he's a smoother guy. So when you ride this bike, do you feel like you have to be more aggressive? Can you ride, to your style?
I do feel like I have to be a little bit more aggressive and get out of my comfort zone a little bit, which is fine, but I'm more of I like being smooth more, flow, being consistent.
All right, so Aden, give me a description of each engine character. We'll start with the Honda. You have a stock one that you've ridden a lot. With these light mods that Jamie over at Twisted Development has made, what is it like to ride? Tell these people watching this video, what is it like to ride now with a little bit of modifications?
Honestly, this bike compared to my stock bike, it feels like it has a little bit more snap-off bottom, like coming out of corners. Compared to my stock Honda feels like it has longer pulling power coming out of corners. Like it takes a while to get there.
So basically a little bit more top in on the stock one. This is more bottom to mid. All right, so tell me about the Kawasaki KX250 engine character compared to a stock one. You just rode one last week to kind of give you a little heads up here today. So what's this modified Twist Development KX250 like to ride?
I feel like, well, they're both really great bikes, but I feel like the stock bike I have to ride a little bit more aggressively just because
It doesn't have that pulling power?
No, it doesn't have that pulling power with it does when Jamie put in that ignition and gas.
So what he told me, if you guys can explain, I'm going to translate 14-year-old to you. He came off the track and said, hey, man, I really got to ride this stock bike aggressive. My modified KX250, I can ride it smoother. I don't have to be as aggressive, and I feel like I'm faster, which he was compared to the stock bike. So this whole test was to see if he could handle a modified 250F. This is his first set of modified bikes, and when you go into an amateur world that's very competitive, you got parents that are going ape beep, you can beep that out. You got to have a little bit of some engine power to kind of compete, right? So I want to keep my child safe, get some light mods. Jamie over at Twisted Development did a great job. I was actually surprised that he was faster on the Honda because I've been watching him on the Kawasaki. But the lap times don't lie. He was almost a second faster a lap on the Honda versus the Kawasaki. State Fair in the background here has deeper ruts for California standards and tackier dirt. So I think it's just easier for him to ride. He did ride a Honda at Loretta Lynn's that he did fairly well at, so he could be more comfortable, but nonetheless, he chose the Honda today for him to ride. Welcome to the world of the B-Class, kid. It's a whole different world from C-Class. So another thing I want to mention is contingency. For you parents out there who are purchasing these bikes from dealerships, if you can find them, COVID has really increased sales. I mean, I walk into dealerships and I find 0 motorcycles on the dealer floors. It's insane. So if you guys are out there trying to decide, hey, it doesn't really matter to me which color I ride, what's the best contingency? Look no further than Team Green, because we go to a lot of amateur races and Kawasaki is one of only a couple that are actually there supporting their riders. So this is something that I spawned off on earlier. Why do I want Aden to ride a Kawasaki? I want him to break away from the Keefer Inc. name and try to stand on his own 2 feet and hopefully do well enough that he can maybe get a ride. Team Green does a lot of amateur support. So if you're looking for the most support for your dollar, Team Green does excellent work. All right, on the suspension side of things, Enzo did the suspension on the Honda. Pro Circuit, of course, well known for Kawasaki's. We had them do the Kawasaki. For you, Aden, 125 pounds, what has the most comfort for you?
Honestly, I feel like the Kawi suspension has a little bit more comfort just because it's a little bit more plush compared to the Honda. It feels like stiff, like it feels like Supercross suspension kind of.
So again, I'm going to translate 14-year-old. For me, I think a lot of that has to do with chassis. The Kawasaki has a softer feeling chassis. Of course, you guys know the Honda character. It's a little bit more, it's stiffer, a little bit more rigid, but obviously that's why it corners very good. So Enzo revalved it, resprung it. You're a lighter weight guy, so this thing holds up a little bit more, a little bit stiffer.
Yes, I feel like that does hold up a little bit more, which I like, but I like having that a little bit more of a softer feel to it.
All right, you walk out in the garage. You look at both these bikes. Obviously, you took a digger on the Kawasaki today, so we're not going to judge you on that. But what's the best looking bike for you?
Probably the Honda. It just looks so clean. But for you, what you're probably thinking I'd pick was the Cali, just because it has a monster logo on it, dude.
It looks more like amateur style bikes, but it's hard to beat a red Honda, man. It looks sexy. Even the new gas, it's red and it looks really good. So, all right, so Throttle Syndicate did those graphics. This is like the amateur support Team Green graphics. For me, I like that better. It looks more racy. So for me, coming out here today, watching him ride both bikes, we haven't done that yet, and I really wanted to do this, and I thought, why not make this video for you guys out there in the amateur world, being parents? Which bike? I get a lot of emails. Which bike should my kid ride? Again, slight modification to the Honda gives a little bit more bottom end, gets it competitive, as well as the Kawasaki. For 2021, they did a great job with this bike stock. I just added a little bit more mid-range and pulling power. Aden likes that a lot. Before he rode back-to-back, he seemed to migrate over here, but now that he had a chance to ride these two bikes in the same day, man, it really brought everything up to the surface, lap times, put some pressure on him, and he seemed to shine more on the Honda because cornering character. So hopefully you guys get some information out of this video. I know that we did, and you guys can check back at racerxonline.com for more cool videos, or you can subscribe to the publication. $30, get a calendar, 12 issues, lots of cool things in the magazines that you can't see online. And we'll see you on a next build. Happy New Year, everybody.